Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Good morning, everybody. This is Paul Carruthers from MotoAmerica. I'm the communications manager for what is the leading superbike championship in the United States. This is my podcast, Off Track, and I say my, and that was rude because it's not mine. It's mine and Sean Bice's. And Sean's out in Ohio. I'm in Southern California. Our guest, I won't tell you who it is yet, but he's in Florida. So we're pretty much spread all around the country. Sean, welcome to another podcast. I don't know, it's got to be close to 150 at this point. So we're cranking right along, and we're coming up on another race here next week. I know we travel to VIR. It's gonna be nice to get back to VIR. It's one of my favorites. It's kind of got a chill vibe to it, you know, with the old barns and everything, and the racetrack's a popular one with the riders. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we weren't able to go to VIR last year. So I think it's going to make it even a little bit more special to be able to go back after taking a year off.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bummer that we couldn't go there last year. And, you know, after on the way out of Atlanta, you know, a lot of the riders were talking about how they're really looking forward to going to VIR. And, you know, it seems to be a favorite track for a lot of them for several reasons, but it is for us too. And it's an interesting track, Paul, you know, not necessarily the track, but the geography of getting there. I always crack up how when you go to that area, you kind of go in and out of North Carolina and Virginia about 5 times. And I don't understand how that works. You see the Virginia's for Lovers sign and you're like, well, I guess I'm in Virginia, but next thing you know, you're probably back in North Carolina. So I don't know what the border situation is right there or how they figured that whole thing out. But you know, once you get to the track, it's solidly in Virginia, so that makes me happy. But yeah, it's an interesting part of the country for sure, especially this time of year with everything so green and, you know, spring is sprung, so to speak. So looking forward to it a lot.
It's funny because that's the one track we go to. My world geography is pretty good, but my U.S. geography is horrible. Like from east of Arizona.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when I'm at VIR and in that area, I honestly have no clue where I am. Like
exactly,
I just don't. And you're right. You're driving. It says, you know, Virginia's for lovers, and then Alaska's for lobster, or what. I mean, you know what I mean? It feels like I have no idea what state I'm going to run into next, but it is kind of interesting, and it's definitely. It's definitely a different place. I think the racetrack's really cool, and I really like the whole paddock area because it's kind of old, and like I said, it's got a good vibe. It's kind of chill and it's kind of old school, so it's fun to go there, and I'm really looking forward to it. But let's bring our guest in. I'll pump his head full of great things first, so he comes in nice and cocky. But if you look back at our opening weekend at Road Atlanta, which was round 1 of the 2021 MotoAmerica Championship, you know, looking at the results without even knowing anything other than looking at the results, you'd come away from that weekend thinking that Sean Dillon Kelly was the most successful guy on the weekend, and it's accurate. I mean, it's inarguable. He won both of his Supersport races. He did so quite handily. Held off the advances of his rival, Richie Escalante. We haven't seen the last of him yet, and I know Sean Dillon Kelly knows that as well. But it was a very strong opening statement from SDK. He went out, and like I said, he dominated both races. He had the perfect start to a weekend and the perfect start to a championship that every rider goes into the opening round hoping for the weekend that Sean Dillon Kelly was able to do. So it was very impressive, and we'll bring him in now. Real quick, Sean had 2 Supersport wins in 2019. He's had 5 Supersport wins in 2020, 2 wins last year, finishing second in the championship. He still hasn't won that Supersport title, but obviously the start that he's had this year would tell you that this, you know, already is the best chance he's had, and it's something that he will fight for until the very finish with Escalante. So it should be fun to watch. But Welcome to our show, Sean. I'm surrounded by Seans today.
How you doing, guys? First of all, thank you for having me on again. It's nice to talk to you guys, and yeah, absolutely. Just looking forward to chatting up with you guys after a good first weekend.
Yeah, could that weekend, I mean, on paper it couldn't have gone any better. It couldn't have gone any better for you, right? I mean, unless there was something behind the scenes that we missed, there was no real hiccups.
No, honestly, it was a really good start to the year. It was exactly, I mean, like you said, right? It's how any rider wants to start their season. But truthfully, just behind the results, I'm just really happy and proud of the work between myself and the team, because the 2020 season was really tough. It was very difficult and frustrating at times, with many things going on between the competition and the results. But I learned a lot from that, and it got me very prepared, made me look at things a little differently. And here's a result, already first race weekend. We did, honestly, I did a little bit better than I expected. Wasn't expecting it to go in that way. For me to be able to win both races with over a 2.5 second gap is honestly amazing. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about, but very happy to start in that way and looking forward to going in that same direction.
Now, as hard as you work in the off season, and obviously it's easier to work hard, I believe, and I'm pretty sure it's true. It's easier to work hard when you get beaten than it is to have won. So you got beaten in that championship last year. It was very close, and I know that drove you to probably an off season of harder work than you've ever had. But what people don't realize as well is that team of yours also goes back to Alabama, and they work their asses off to try to get you a better motorcycle, because most people would believe that might have been the reason that you didn't win, was the motorcycles weren't as competitive as perhaps they should have been. Anyway, the bottom line is, whatever those guys went back and did, they busted their ass and they came back and they brought you a better motorcycle to Road Atlanta. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt that this year, the package that we have, and when I say package, I mean the bike, myself, my crew, the people, working with me, just everything. Everything's at a better level, and that's clear. It's already seen. And yeah, it was definitely an off season of a lot of work. Honestly, my setup of my off season hasn't really changed from the year prior or the one before that. We have a pretty good solid schedule when it comes to the off season / preseason, and for sure it helps knowing what to expect. We already knew that I was going to run in the same Supersport Championship. Richie was going to run the same championship. We were both going to be on the same bikes. So I think we both knew, our rivalry. We both knew what to expect, and that definitely helps for preparation. But honestly, the biggest thing for me was just it was the 2020 season. For me, it was having that. It's like, it's more than that carrot to a pig. It's like I had it all season long. Had something that I just had to run for with my arms reaching out, and it was very tough. Sometimes I never reached it, and at the end of the season I didn't reach it because I didn't win the championship. But at the end of the day, I've been telling people after my 2020 season, of course for me it was difficult not winning the championship, but at the same time, if I look back at all of last year, I know I learned so much. I learned for sure more than the champ did, because I was that guy right behind, grabbing anything I could from anywhere, trying to take my thing to my bike, my package to the maximum. And it wasn't enough. So I had to search for more every single time out. and that put me to another level, and here we are now, I think demonstrating everything that we were able to learn last year.
Sean, I talked to you a couple times at Road Atlanta, and I reserved talking to you about a couple things because I had a feeling we were going to get you on the podcast soon, especially after the weekend you had down there. So I want to talk about this now. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I want to go back to March, and where I'm going to talk about. You had an unbelievably amazing Daytona 200 that just was gut-wrenching at the conclusion. But my gosh, you did everything right in that. I mean, that we all know that track's an anomaly, and that happens sometimes with that whole draft situation. I only bring it up to provide some perspective here because you were absolutely amazing in that race. And then my observation of when we went to COTA was, I thought, man, you were going to be so upset that you were just going to go crazy at that test. And you were fairly quiet at that test. It surprised me a little bit. I mean, Richie seemed to have the measure of the field. And I know it's only a test. I know it's not all about trying to be fast. And we talked to Loris Baz about that too. You guys, I'm sure, were testing stuff and figuring things out. And then you came into Road Atlanta, and it was like, that's the Sean Dillon Kelly. I mean, to pull and win both races the way you did, it's like, yeah, baby, it's on like Donkey Kong right now. So talk about Daytona, the test, and then Road Atlanta. And was there some kind of development going on there, I guess?
Yeah, so that's actually, it's cool that you saw it from that outside perspective, because from the outside perspective, it was all over the place. If you look at those three events, but for sure, man, Daytona was amazing. For me to be able to go already my second time at Daytona and do another pole position it was already a great start. It's a great way to start the season, and the race was almost perfect. I think I led like 40 something laps of the 57, which is, I think, something amazing. We had some great pit stops, which is what kind of made our 2019 debut not go so smoothly, and this year the team was super on it. But I just made a miscalculation on the last couple of laps, and Brandon got the best of it, and he did a great race. Just beat me to the line. We know Daytona is a very special racetrack. It's not like any other track, so he just got me fair and square. It was great to run with him. Brandon and I go way back, so yeah, it was definitely bumming. It still is hard for me to talk about that race without it hurting the heart, but hey, this is it's part of racing, part of growing. So I'm definitely proud of the effort that whole race weekend. But yeah, then after that, going into COTA a couple weeks after, honestly, first day at COTA was, I don't even want to talk about it. We finished like 3 something seconds off of Richie, and I mean, clearly that wasn't only clearly there was many things wrong. We had a lot of bike issues, and just things were not going the right way. We totally lost the entire first day. And yeah, it was disappointing looking at the lap times because we were so far off. But we definitely got our things a little bit together for the second day at COTA, and it's kind of hard when you look at testing, just because since it's split up by sessions. But if you look at the overall lap times, we were only a couple tenths off of Richie at the end in day 2 of the overall fastest lap times, and that's that I was running with a hard tire. But the point is, we got whatever we needed to fix on the bike. We got it fixed with the team, and then we were actually going somewhere. We were making proper steps, but it was still a weird change, going from Daytona immediately being up there to then going to COTA and struggling and so many different things. But also, it's a different bike. The Daytona bike has different parts, different engines, so they had to pretty much redo it. And sometimes things happen when it comes to building machines. So it was definitely bumming to lose the first day and not really being able to make the most of that test. But wasn't too worrying because we're not racing at COTA from what we know of as of right now, and it's not really that worrying. But it was still a good wake up call from my side and from the team side, for us to really get on our A game before Atlanta. It was, yeah, it was a good wake up call. I think we needed it, and it definitely got us all moving in a strong direction the last couple of weeks before going to Atlanta and getting our work done.
All right, I got two things from Daytona that I have to say. First of all, I can't think of anything more miserable than losing to Brandon Posh. And I mean that with all due respect, because I love the kid, but I could just imagine that it feels like a screwdriver has just been driven between your ribs and shook around a bunch of times. The second thing is, funny. And I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, you actually got that Rolex watch for qualifying on pole. So if you would have been born, 20 years earlier, you would have two of those watches now without ever having to win a race.
Yeah, it's that's funny. Talking about Brandon, I mean, like I said, we have an interesting relationship. I'm sure he will hear this, and I don't know if he'll hear it or not, but I don't really care if he does. But yeah, we have like a love-hate relationship because we go back so long. And man, we raced last season all year, and he never beat me in one race. So for him to finally beat me is good for him. Fucking props, I'm sure he's happy about it. But I'm fucking pissed that it was at I'm sorry for my words. Oops.
That's all right.
That it was at Daytona of all places. Like, man, just make it some other racetrack or some other event, but not Daytona, man. But no, he like I said, it had to happen. I made a miscalculation, and he got the best of it, and he beat me fair and square. So, that's all we can say.
That's awesome.
I hope we can do another Daytona 200, and I can line up next to him wearing a Rolex watch, and he can, get all happy posting on Instagram, with both of us wearing a watch. We'll see.
All right. My next question is I see you as like, let me try to explain this. Like we've had these other guys go to Europe, obviously. Garrett, Cameron, Joe. You are who many people believe will be next to do that path. But my question is, what is next for you? Say, I picture win or lose that you're not going to be back in super sport racing. Is your goal, would you, if you had your way, would you go from here to Moto2, or would you go from here to a MotoAmerica Superbike ride and then overseas after that? Now, and don't worry about hurting my feelings. Just be honest and tell me what it is that you would like to do with your career from this point forward.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about hurting your feelings, Paul. No, truthfully, my goal is to get to the World Championship. I want to be there. I feel like that's my spot. I was in the Rookies Cup for 3 years, and I know the MotoGP paddock really well. I know a lot of people there, and I just feel like that's where I need to be, and that's where I've been fighting to be ever since I started racing. My dream has always been to get to MotoGP and become a world champion. So that hasn't changed any little bit, and that's what my goal is. Of course, there's many variables to it, just because I want that doesn't mean that it might be the easiest route to take starting next year, or it might be, a few more years down the line. This sport or this world, has many different factors to it. So for sure, I'd love to be on in the Moto2 grid as soon as possible, but it's not only in my hands right now. There's many things to it. So at the same time, if that doesn't end up going through within the next year or two, then I also, if I get a good contract, I wouldn't mind, racing in MotoAmerica on a superbike, just because, now I know the tracks, I know the teams, I know, and I've also ridden a superbike in my past, and I know that, I'm comfortable with it, so at the end of the day, my goal is to be in the World Championship. I'm going to fight for that, but I don't know if that might be, in 1 year or in 6 years, and do a path like Cameron Bobier. I don't know yet how it's gonna go, but I'm gonna fight for it, and I'm just gonna do everything I need to do in this very moment to get closer to that goal.
And you kept my feelings from being hurt. Good job.
You see, I
You
always
threw me
hit.
enough of a bone.
I mean, you know me.
I know. I do.
Hey, Sean, let's talk about, continuing with this theme, let's talk about Moto2. And a few weeks ago, we were kind of caught by surprise. I mean, we'd heard some issues with Marcos Ramirez on the American racing team, and know that you're involved with that team quite a bit in the academy. And you can talk about that too, but we had found out and heard and posted some stuff on social media about you being a possible fill-in rider for Ramirez. And it didn't happen that way. And I remember remarking to Paul, I was like, man, he's went all the way over there, and, he's not going to get to ride. And Paul's like, well, he got to go to have a nice trip to Europe. And I was like, yeah, but that's got to be really frustrating for you to be right there, standing on the front straight. And, tell us about that trip. And was it fruitful in any way? I mean, I'm sure it was good to get over there and get your face in the window a little bit. Tell us about that trip and what might have happened and what did happen when you went.
Yeah, I got blue balls. That's what happened. No, truthfully, it was, first of all, I think it's very good for me to have even gotten that call. And then two, for the team to actually take me over there and have me there ready to go shows something important. That's I think very good for me. And at the end of the day, of course, it sucked to not have been riding or have not gotten the opportunity to ride. But it was also really good for me to be able to be back in that MotoGP paddock, with everyone knowing that I was a backup rider for the American racing team if Marcos was deemed unfit. And for me to be able to go around, seeing everyone again, everyone seeing my face again, knowing that I've been doing well in MotoAmerica, it was honestly really good. It was kind of refreshing, and I think just important for me in different ways. And yeah, at the end of the day, my role there was to be ready if someone was deemed unfit, and they were deemed fit. So I didn't have to do that part, but I try to do the most of from the other side of things. And sometimes that's just as important as racing, believe it or not. So yeah, it was, of course, bumming. I did want to jump back on a Triumph Moto2, but I also did want to try that Calyx chassis out because I've never tried that one out. So hopefully soon. We'll see.
All right, I got one more Moto2 thing, and then we can jump back to MotoAmerica and the coming season. I think people saw right away when Joe Roberts went over there how difficult Moto2 is. And I think that's kind of grown on people to the fact that it's definitely not an easy championship. It's possibly the most difficult championship in the world. I think when Cameron has gone over there, and even though he's done remarkably well, I think it further shows how difficult it is, because we know how dominant and we know how good Cameron is. And for him to go over there and, he could be 25th in qualifying and less than a second off. I mean, I think people are starting to really take notice of like, wow, that thing is difficult. You know that it's difficult because you've done it. What is that something that if I was a racer and I would look at that championship, I'd be trying to think of any way I could to avoid that one to get to where I wanted to go, if that makes sense.
Well,
I don't know if that makes me a pussy or not, but I'm like, should I go World Superbike and sneak in the back door, or should I, I don't know, but I'm putting that to you because it is a very difficult championship.
You're a pussy, Paul. No. To be honest, it's absolutely one of the most competitive and challenging championships in the world. But now you look at Moto3, And then you look at Moto2 and you look at MotoGP, and they're all, every single season, just they keep on improving and level. And it's just everything's getting incredibly close between, the bikes they're making, between the riders getting at even higher level. Every rider is talented. Every rider works hard, and everything is getting very close. But at the end of the day, the harder something is, the better it is when you do good in that spot, or you win. So at the end of the day, if I want to be in the world championship, because I want to be surrounded by the best. I want to be fighting with the best. I want to be one of the best. So of course it's, I did my world championship debut in 2019 at Valencia, and it was very important for me, I think, to be able to already have, with only 17, I was only 17 at the time, and for me to be able to get on that grid and, be there that whole race weekend was definitely important for me to say, okay, is this what I want? And yes, it is what I want. Okay, well, this is going to be this difficult or more, and yeah, I mean, I know that's stepping foot in fire, but that's also what I'm here for. I'm not here for an easy route. It hasn't been an easy route, so I'm not going to choose an easier route. And yeah, it's, we look at Cam, and honestly, Cam is doing so good. For me, like, I know, like, I obviously, like we were just talking, I know very well what it is to be in that paddock and be in that championship, just from that one race weekend I did. And he's doing amazing. I mean, for him to be able to go from, being on a super bike for 7 years or how many years it is, and, jump on a Moto2 bike and already be doing fighting for top 10s, being in the top 10, that's very impressive, I think. So it's definitely a motivation for me. So also to have Joe, fighting for podiums. Last year he did really well. So for me, that's a motivation, to see Americans are starting to make their way up. Gerloff, in World Superbike is fighting this year. Is for sure going to be up there consistently. So it's a motivation for Americans, and it's also nice to see back at home how the fans are responding to everything like that as well. So I just want to get involved just like that, and make it over there as well to be able to fight, whether it's next year or in a few years down the road.
Let's bring it back to MotoAmerica for a minute. I want to talk to you about, this is your third year in Supersport, but each year is something different. I mean, you had Bobby Fong as your teammate, and then he moved up to Superbike, and of course you guys are on the same team now. But last year it was cool that you had Lucas Silva as your teammate, and it was a joy to see the two of you guys make the podium together at Ridge. That was real cool for two teammates, and I know how you feel about Lucas. And now you've got Sam Lockoff, who's moved up into Supersport, which is interesting from the point of view that you're from Florida and or live in Florida, and he lives in Florida too. I have to kind of couch that for both you guys, but you're both Floridians, and he's obviously younger and just starting out. And I see you do things with is it Julian Correa, the rider that you do a lot of mentoring with younger riders. What's your role and relationship with Sam this year? And how has it changed over the years with, you having Bobby and then Lucas, and now you've got Sam, who maybe you're helping bring up a little bit, or you guys talk? What's it like to be teammates with these different riders each year?
Yeah, well, first of all, everyone thinks Sam is younger than me. He's actually 10 days older. So
Wow.
he looks like a couple years younger because he still needs to get some muscle on. I always give him shit for that. And he's in love with my triceps, so I hope he hears this.
Who is it?
But that is kind of funny though. So I wanted to start with that. I wanted to clarify things.
Okay.
But in terms of it definitely is interesting, because I came in 2019 as a full-on rookie, first time in MotoAmerica, first time racing on a 600. And I had, Bobby as my teammate, and he was, turned out to be the super sport champ. So for me, it was really important to have, obviously I was the rookie one way or another, but also for me to be able to have the fighting champ as my teammate was really good for me. For me to be able to have someone, with the same machinery doing that well, was really important for me to learn quickly, have, really good data and be able to work off of that. So definitely helped me improve quickly as a, first time 600 rider. And then, last year things kind of changed, of course, different people in the championship, different situations. And then, now this year it's, it's also kind of the same feeling because, or not the same feeling, but same feeling in a different way if I look at it from the outside, because now I'm now the veteran in the class. This is my third season. I know how things, I know everything in a much better now that I'm the veteran, making me feel old, even though I'm only 18. But Sam is, he's the same age, but he just moved up from the junior cup. So I know what it is to make that step from a smaller bike to a bigger bike. And it's cool to be able to have someone like him, seeing him improve. And the good thing is, he has the right setup going on. He has PJ as his full-time rider coach, and he's training with him, or did like a full off season with him training on 600s. And I think he's still training with him now up north. So I think he's doing the right stuff, and it's cool to see that for sure.
Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about rivalries. A lot of times we call something a rivalry when it's not really a rivalry because there's one guy who's dominating it. And I think to have a true rivalry, it's got to be that when two guys show up at a race, you're not sure which guy's going to win. So I think what you have with Richie Escalante is a true rivalry. It's also difficult. I know it's difficult for Sean as well. We have two amazing guys in that class, and as far as being people and as far as being motorcycle racers. So it kind of makes it easy because you can't play favorites, because honestly, they're both our favorite guys. I mean, you're
True.
both two really good human beings, and we wish the best for both of you. This rivalry so far, it's had a little bit of true rivalry in it, in the fact that there was some times last year when the situation was a little bit uncomfortable, should I say. But always you guys seem to come back together, and I think there's such a mutual respect there that no matter what, you end the day as friends. Do you think that can continue that way, or do you think there's a lot of people that think that it wouldn't take very much of a spark there to create a fire? Is that accurate?
There's plenty of fire.
Well, I mean, like the flaming type where Sean and I are putting it out at the press conference with an extinguisher.
Yeah.
That kind.
Yeah. Man, when we're on the racetrack, I think we both know there is a lot of that fire. We've, for sure last year, Richie had some races where it was completely, untouchable and hard to keep, any space, or couldn't even, stay close. But then there was other races where, pretty much all the races that I could stay with him, I would win in the last lap, last corner. And it would always be a great show. But I also know how annoying that is, right? To lose a race in the last lap, last corner. And I also know, from my last year experience, how much it sucks to lose a race from 10 seconds back or 5 seconds back, whatever it is. So we always had something there that was making us grow and want, have that not direct fight, but for sure a fight within ourselves of wanting more. And I think we're, people know us well, and people know how I am off the racetrack, how I am with people and stuff. But They also know that I can have a fight on the racetrack, and I think Richie's the same way. You know, like Richie's a very cool, quiet guy off the racetrack, but can also bring a good fight on the track. And I just feel like if both of us on the racetrack need to take our gloves off and get bloody, we will do it. We have no problem doing it, But then, off the racetrack, there's never, there's no issue. We both have respect. We both know that we're here to do our job, and that we're both good at our job, So it's cool to have a good rival like that. He always respects the fact that he has good rivalry, and he respects the fact that he can still learn from a young rider like me. And yeah, it's cool. But there's always going to be that fire on the track.
All right. Well, we're going to let you and your fire leave us for the morning, and you can go back to bed.
I'm going to go work out right now. I feel pumped just talking about that.
You can go back. You can go back to working on your triceps.
Yeah.
Continue to have perhaps the best triceps in the paddock.
We go.
Sean and I don't have enough time between now and VIR to compete, but who knows by Road America what we could throw down with the right amount of weight. So
there we go. I'm excited.
I appreciate you coming on the show today. It's always good to have you. You're always fun to talk to, and you're a good personality in our paddock. And as much as I want you to go on to World Championship success, I do hope that we get a little bit more time with you. But either way, we'll be cheering for you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and he can give the fans a bit more information about what we've got coming up. But in the meantime, you have a good, safe week, and we'll see you in Virginia in less than a week now. So
awesome. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate the words, and thank you guys again for having me. Looking forward to talking again soon, hopefully, and just looking forward now to VIR next weekend and doing another good weekend.
All right, now you got to listen to Sean.
Yeah, great to talk to you again, Sean. So normally I am talking about the usual.
Sean, real quick, can I interrupt? Can I
Yeah.
interrupt you for a second, Sean?
Yeah.
Do you remember being 18?
Not really.
I know. I was just thinking about it. I remember it, but it's in black and white, which is weird.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
All right, you continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. That's all right. So normally I end the show by talking about the next round, which is VIR next weekend. And of course, go to MotoAmerica.com for race tickets, and absolutely subscribe to our fantastic MotoAmerica Live Plus subscription streaming service. But this week, I want to make a special appeal, and I think Sean's going to appreciate this, because most riders in motorcycle road racing really appreciate the corner marshals out there. And I mean, obviously they help them in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's an interesting situation when they're trying to get their bike going and they're not getting the guy behind them to help push enough. That happens sometimes, but I know after every race, they go around and give thumbs up to these guys who tirelessly give themselves to, the cause of racing and keeping our riders safe with flags and rescuing and things like that. And I want to make an appeal to that. I had done a story for the website this week about the need for corner marshals, it's a volunteer system. And for sure, I think we're set for VIR, but Road America coming up, it's a big track. It requires a lot of corner marshals. And we need an absolute army of people to help us there. And at any of our rounds, I know this week we've had a couple people have commented, well, I can't do it at Road America, but maybe Pittsburgh or New Jersey. And I responded and said, absolutely, get in touch with us and make that happen, because it's such an important and vital part of our sports. So, one of the things you can do is contact David Hawley. He is our chief corner marshal, and it's DHAWLEY at MotoAmerica.com. That's his direct email address. And you can get in touch with him to ask about being a corner marshal at Road America or any of the rounds coming up. And, Sean, I want to ask you, the corner marshals are important. I'm sure you're going to agree.
Absolutely. It's one of the most important things for a sport. We wouldn't be able to be out there on a racetrack without them. So it's definitely something that I try my best to respect everyone that's out there helping us out on the race weekends and just making it happen for us. Of course, I don't like to visit them personally on the racetrack. I try not to, but whenever, you know, there's someone down and they're always there, you know, helping. I love seeing the passion that those guys have always. So yeah, try my best to respect them because we definitely need those guys, and looking forward to see everyone out at VIR and then every other racetrack.
Yeah, and I made the point in the story I wrote earlier this week that it really is the best seats. They're the best seats in the house because you're literally in the action. You know, obviously there's a lot of training that goes on leading into it, and you don't have to have experience prior to this. They have a system where, you know, you start out in a certain situation, and as you get more experience in subsequent years or later in the weekend, you'll do more things. But they train you well, and you're right there. Right beside the track. You can't get any closer than that unless you're on the bike itself, and you get up to be up close, and you're part of producing our great series. So this is just kind of a special appeal, and I'll probably do it again from time to time on these podcasts, but for sure, Road America, we need some people. So absolutely get in touch with David Hawley, dhawley at MotoAmerica.com. That's DHAWLEY at MotoAmerica.com. That's his email address, and you can ask him how you can help. And anyway, thanks again, Sean.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys. Talk soon.